Hello, welcome to the Go Grab That Day podcast. I'm gonna pretend I'm talking, but I'm not really talking. Hi guys, welcome to the Go Grab That Day podcast. I just want to very quickly introduce my next guest, or my guest is coming on the show today, Mr. Richie Cranny. For those that don't know, Richie is the founder of Wimp to Warrior, and he is also heavily involved in the MMA game in Australia and worldwide. He's doing some amazing things behind closed doors. In the background of MMA, you'll hear in this interview some of the plans he has. It's really cool, and Richie is one of those guys that has some like really good plans for the sport. I'm super happy that he's involved. Super happy to talk to him. And on a personal note, I've spoke before about Wimp to Warrior. It's something that it was an amazing experience in my life, and I can't recommend it enough. And Richie is the guy who, as I said, he found that amazing experience for people like me. But definitely check Richie out online. He's doing some really cool things for the sport, and as you will hear in this interview, he's got some really cool plans as well. So check him out, and hope you enjoyed this interview. Peace. Hey Richie.
How are you, champ? You right?
All good, all good. You can hear me okay and all that, yeah?
Yep. So, you?
All good, perfect, yeah.
Did you watch the fights yesterday?
Oh, I did. What did you think?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a real mixed bag. I think I thought Izzy done really well. He was a little bit more pensive than normal, but he was, the power was there. You had to really deal with that. And I think Jan did a really good game plan, stealing those rounds with the takedowns. So it is what it is. I think I'm happy with the result, but I don't like the way it was scored at the end. I think Izzy won at least 2 rounds.
Yeah, I had it going in. Like, I had a couple of mates watching it with me, and we had it going 2-2 into the final round.
Yeah. But, I think so. Yeah.
The judges these days, you can't really. You'd be all day giving out about them, What drives me crazy, I saw you had a bit online over and back yesterday, is people shitting on Izzy already,
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, but look, they're just keyboard warriors, mate. They have no idea about the sport.
Well, that's it.
I said to one guy, I don't normally get involved with it, but I had a spare 10 minutes. I was just responding to a couple of people. This one guy was trying to tell me about striking, and I said maybe you should just go and do some homework on your striking, mate. And he come back and says, "Who are you to tell me about striking? I haven't seen you on any cards and all this kind of shit." I was like, "Oh mate, that's it. It's just such a dick." And then all these people were like, "LOL."
Yeah. It gets to a point where you just feel like, the longer you spend online, you kind of end up a little dumber when you leave. I had a couple of months back as well with a guy. He commented on one of the posts saying how Dustin Poirier did not belong in the same cage as Conor McGregor. And I just sometimes the comments are so bad you can't help but comment. You can't help but say something.
I think a lot of these guys, they just have nothing better to do, and they put things out knowing that people are going to react.
That's it.
And they're just talking shit. They have no idea. They just love to get a response,
Yeah, it's just I feel like a bigger idiot then when you comment on it. But card, I think the card yesterday from top to bottom was one of the prelims were excellent. I mean, geez, we were going crazy before the main card had even started.
Yeah, I missed the prelims. I saw the undercard, and then so there was some crap. The undercard was great. I think Cruz did well, and then that knee with what's his name, the Russian guy,
the champion. Peter Yan.
Yeah, jeez, that was terrible. I mean, I don't know what the fuck happened there. So
it's hard to really kind of understand where his head was at. I suppose it's the heat of the moment can happen, but I mean, God, he's doing it a long time to be.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think it was the heat of the moment because he wasn't in flow. He paused and he looked at his corner, and and then he just threw it. It's like he actually he did it. It wasn't reactive. It was I don't know, but yeah, I think I don't think the result will change in the rematch. I think he'll come back. I think he's too good at what he does.
Yeah.
For shit. I keep wanting to call him Stylebender.
Oh, Sterling.
Yeah, Sterling.
Yeah.
I just don't think Sterling's very good with the ground stuff, but this guy, he was just. It's what I always say. It's the fundamentals. If you can be really good at the basics, it shuts everything else down.
Well, that's exactly what he has. I was saying it like to my brother yesterday. He's just there's nothing super exciting about him, but everything is just, and he has a good chunk of everything. Rather than being super at one thing, he has that big, spread of being good at a bit of everything.
Yeah, for sure.
But I suppose we'll start off by saying thanks for coming on, Richie. I appreciate
no
it. It's an honor to talk to you. Obviously, the main thing I wanted to pick your brain on was this thing you're doing with Wimp to Warrior, which, like, I've spoken to so many people about it and blown it up as much as I can when I'm talking about it. But I'll start off by saying, how did you get involved in MMA?
I was originally from the UK, and I boxed through school, and then I started martial arts at 19. This is way before MMA was even thought of. This is the 80s, late 80s.
Yeah.
And then got into martial arts. I started a non-traditional form of martial art that was kind of designed. It was one of the modern martial arts that kind of broken off. It was originally Master Choi, who was the World Federation leader of Taekwondo back in the day. He broke off and made a system called Choi Kwando, which was Master Choi's Kwando. And basically, he went to the US and he studied sports science, and he was looking at flow of movement and how to generate power. And rather than single rigid movements that traditional styles had, how to flow one technique into the other. He kind of used the word sequential movement a lot. And it was all about power, how to get the maximum power out of your punches and your kicks, a little bit of clinch work, but no ground. And I just fell in love with that system. And I trained for that for four and a bit years, got my black belt, opened my first gym, started teaching. And then I did that full time in the end. And then mid 90s, we started watching the Pride videos and it's the usual thing, just the VHS, and whenever you could find any material on what was going on. Yeah. And he was my coach, but then my training partner, we started trying to get the videos. And then there was a seminar announced for black belts of different styles to go and meet. And the idea was, it was in London, and there was 4 or 5 matted areas, and there was a different instructor from a different system on each one. And there was a couple of the Gracies came over, and there was no jiu-jitsu in the UK or in Europe. I think, they were in Switzerland at the time, and they come over, and we were like, okay. So we went straight to their mat, and we stayed with them all day. Yeah. And absolutely loved it. And we'd already been watching the videos and kind of playing around. And then once we saw what they were doing to guys in demonstrate, that these big guys, like traditional style guys, and they were just mauling them. Yeah. And we were like, this is it. So we started studying grappling and wrestling for MMA, and then the rest is history. We turned it into a full MMA system around 98 in the UK. So we had a syllabus based, and we taught in a proper format, stuff I'm doing with IMAF now. And then when I moved to Australia, I carried it on over here and opened my first gym, and that's where I started Wimp to Warrior.
Wow. Is it amazing how, even for you on a personal level, the Gracies have led you to MMA?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's weird because when we first went and started training with them, there was no, the phrase MMA wasn't even out. It was, I remember someone saying, there's this, they're trying to get this system called mixed martial arts. And I was like, that doesn't sound right. I said, that's too long. It will never catch on. But yeah, it's, I just love, the thing I love about MMA is it's always evolving, and that's what I liked about the other system that we got into. It was modern and it was being tweaked all the time, and we'd go and do competitions, amateur comps, and if something worked in live competition, then we'd keep it, and if it didn't, we'd tweak it. And then when we started learning the wrestling and the ground game, was exactly the same. Yeah. We always wanted to try and put it into live scenarios and just test it. And I think that's what martial arts, it was always the question of all martial artists. Everyone thought that their style was the best. Yeah. my style would do my one would do this against this, but it was always against their own art. You know, the first time it was a case of taking all the best bits from different systems. And to be honest, there's not a lot in the striking that I'm doing now that we weren't doing back then. Our system of stand-up was very solid. The clinch and the wrestling work, obviously, and obviously the ground is what we brought into it. But yeah, it's I just love the fact that you're always learning. I mean, I run coaching courses now for IMAF, the governing body of MMA in Australia, and I'll be on the mats and accrediting coaches under the system, and I'm still learning off the other coaches, and we're all kind of sitting around and we've all got our own variation of techniques, and it's such a cool thing. It's such a cool thing.
Well, I think that's what it is. I mean, again, with mates here yesterday, I was still discussing how like the sport is still relatively new, but every time you think that it's kind of hit this ceiling of evolvement, is someone comes along, like even if you see the calf kicks, which no one thought about a few years back. Now these are such a major thing, which was, I remember training Muay Thai and that was a no-go. You don't kick low because people can check it, and it's just mad how it's still able to evolve so hugely after all these years, and it's going to continue to do so.
Absolutely. I mean, 2 years ago it was leg locks. Everyone was getting leg locked, and everyone was scared about it, you know. And I think, look, maybe that's where the calf kicks came in. The strikers really wanted to take people's legs away and in a safe manner, because obviously if you're worried about getting taken down, you don't want to bring your kicks up because they get caught and they get taken down. But very hard to grab a calf kick.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what I love. It's because when you get to in most styles, you kind of get to black belt, and then you've kind of learnt the Bible of your style, and now it's just, you know, you'll get your dans and belts just as you progress, and you know, and you're coaching, you give back to the art and stuff. But that's not the case of MMA. There's no such thing as a master in MMA because you can't master it.
There's always a technique you can work on, especially for different opponents and things like that. But that's why it's like I don't like to shit on boxing too much, but I can't watch it. I can't bring myself to watch a boxing match anymore. I find it too hard. There's not enough in it for me, and I can't. Some of these celebrity boxing matches is about all I watch. That's it. Unfortunately, I know a lot of boxers are pulling their hair out now listening to that, but I can't. MMA has just got too much in it for me to enjoy, you know.
It is the most exciting combat sport by far.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. In terms of the Wimp to Warrior, how in the hell did that idea come into your head?
Well, just trying to grow the sport. You know, I was in Sydney, and when I moved from the UK MMA scene was kind of 5 years behind the US, so we were always kind of catching up. But when I moved to Australia was kind of 5 years behind the UK in terms of its acceptance, and you know, in terms of gym facilities and fighters and stuff. So I really struggled when I opened my first gym in I was teaching in the local PCYC for a while, and I didn't get the money to get it. I opened my first gym 2008, and I opened this beautiful gym called Platinum Extreme, and it was the first kind of high-end white-collar MMA gym in Australia. And I thought, no one's done this yet, this would be fantastic, but I just couldn't get people through the door because the image of the sport, it was always struggling. And so just one day I was having treatment on my back because I have a back injury, and I was just kind of thinking, how am I going to get people through the door? How am I going to fill the gym? And it's so frustrating when, as a person, you know how good, and if you can get someone on the mats, you know they're going to love it.
Yeah.
And it's like this secret potion that no one wants to try. You know, it's like, I get so frustrated with my kids. Like I get them to try some food, and I think, I love this food. If you try this, you will absolutely love it. But no, I don't want it. And I'm like, It's the same with MMA. Yeah. So I just thought I'd get one person, and the idea was I'd advertise for one person on Facebook that would be someone you'd never think would normally do MMA. You know, just break the mold, and I'd train him for free for 6 months. But they had to agree to do an amateur competition at the end, and I was going to basically blog it, do some videos, and then basically show as many people as I could, like the start, finish, and what you can do with someone. So we put it on Facebook, and then we had just over 400 people email me in the first week.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that was because I was offering to do it for free. Everyone wanted some free training.
Of course.
But so then I decided, okay, I want to kind of work out who really wants to do this. So then I invited them for tryouts, and then that kind of half the people dropped out straight away.
Yeah.
And then in the end, I went through all the applications, and I picked out 50 people from different backgrounds, and then I invited them down and put them through a couple of hours of hell,
Yeah.
and who basically stayed on the mat. And I think we started with 25, and that's how the series started. And I really didn't know if it would work in terms of, because you can train someone and they can be fairly competent and they can look fairly technical in a scenario where you're on the mats or you're hitting pads or you're doing light sparring, but you put someone in a cage in front of 500 people, that's when it really does become the mental game. It's not about the physical training. And I had no idea until the first event whether it was going to work.
Yeah.
And I just thought this could go really badly wrong, or it could go really well.
Yeah.
And luckily it went really well. Everyone came out, and everyone was prepared and mentally ready, and they come out, and the fights were amazing. Yeah, and it kind of blew up from there, really.
It's an amazing thing. I remember back home in Ireland, I couldn't tell you what year it was, but I remember seeing on Facebook, seeing adverts for it and stuff like that, and I was like, God, I really want to do this. It was like probably an hour away from where I was living at the time, and I think because of work or something, I decided not to.
Whereabouts in Ireland was that?
Well, I live in Galway on the west coast, and
Yeah.
I believe you guys were doing it somewhere down south, if I remember correctly.
Cork and Dublin were the first two.
Yeah, I was thinking Limerick or Cork, somewhere that side. Yeah, and I remember it's a bit of a journey, but I was like, oh, I'd fucking love to do it, and it's just because of work and time and stuff like that, it didn't work out. And rolled in a few years later when I was I must have been only here probably 6 months. I saw another advert for it, and I was like, "Are you serious?" Like it's not. It happened to be right in the city, not far from me, and I almost got fired from my job because of it, because I was late for work every morning. But it was worth every earful I had. It was unbelievable. I can't say enough about Wimp to Warrior, but I suppose in a way we were lucky to have City Kickboxing as the gym we got to work with. But no, the whole Wimp to Warrior thing, I can't say enough about it. It's such a cool thing, especially for me. I could talk about MMA all day. I loved it before I did Wimp to Warrior, but it was cool to see. I saw a lot of people in there who didn't know a thing about it. Like I'd be talking to them about fights, didn't have a clue, but they loved taking part in Wimp to Warrior, and that's what people, like you said, it's like that potion you got to drink. Give it a go. It literally will. People like to sell that these things can change your life, but it will change your life. It 100% will.
Yeah, I kind of, there's so many things that, there's products and adverts, and people always using that life-changing quote.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel awkward saying it now because it's used so much, but it's so true.
Yeah.
So everyone I talk to that's done the program tells me it's had a fundamental change in the way they live and the way they look at things, and whether they've changed their job, whatever, their life has changed for the better. Yeah. And it's not for weeks after, it's for years after. I mean, I'm still in touch with people that won the first series, the second series, like 7-8 years ago, and they still contact me, hey coach, blah blah blah, this, I still want to tell you this, the best thing I ever did was Wimp to Warrior program, and I always say to guys, you can do a fitness program, you can go and lift weights or do a 12-week challenge or a corporate boxing thing, for 10 weeks or whatever. But if you do this program, if you do any of those things, you'll all lose weight and you'll get fit, feel great about yourself. But as soon as you stop training, all your fitness and your strength and that will go. But with Wimp to Warrior, the idea I started the program was that people wouldn't stop. I mean, I wanted people to be inducted into our world and to then join the gym. And we have a really good retention. Like average is about 80% of people join the gym, they do the programming, which is, the whole point. But even if they don't, the learnings they get from Wimp to Warrior and that mental strength of when things get tough, they know they can just push through. That never leaves you. You can always recall that. And it's what I've always done, I wouldn't say I had a tough childhood, but I was bullied and stuff. And then when I left school, didn't live in a great area, and the martial art taught me so much. I mean, I left school without a single qualification. I had dyslexia and learning difficulties that no one knew. So I just used to play out because I couldn't learn. I couldn't retain information from audible learning, and that's why with coaching, I'm so passionate about. I really started to learn that there's visual learners, audible learners, kinesthetic learners, and knowing that, it makes you aware as a coach that talking about a technique is only going to work with half the people on the mat.
Yeah.
Then you have to visually show someone, and the visual learners like to see the demonstration and make videos so they can watch it back. And then the kinesthetic learners, which is what I am, I'm a very high kinesthetic learner. I have to do the technique to understand it.
Yeah.
So when at school, nothing worked for me. I was good at woodwork because I could do something. So, so I left school really sort of disheartened and thought I was just this dumbass, and I was going to sweep roads for the rest of my life and got into bad groups and stuff. But when I started martial arts, I immediately, first of all, I was good at it straight away because the way my body works and my brain with information, but having that system where it teaches you how to fail and accept it as growth. And I think that's so important in life. And it's why I'm so strict on my kids about doing martial arts, because kids, everything's done for you nowadays. Your phone basically gives you every piece of information you ever need. Yeah. There's no adversity for people nowadays. No. And as soon as something comes up that's challenging or confronting, they find a different avenue. And that's why I martial arts and especially the Wimp Warrior program, because it's so condensed, it's so it makes it much more powerful, and you get a much bigger result at the end of it. But yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, it's like, as I said, I cannot say enough about it, but I tell like a lot of people, even before the Wimp Warrior program, I've had slight disc issues. So really I should never have gone near it, but it was just kind of a stubborn thing. I couldn't let the thing pass, but still now to this day, I can't really do any rolling or anything like that. But what I'm going to do once I've everything sorted is to just pay some coach just to teach me all the fundamentals without having full on roll. So there is, like, no matter if you like martial arts, there's ways around it. You don't have to compete. You can go and hit pads without ever doing any damage. You can roll with someone who's a black belt who they're not going to hurt you. You're going to learn all the basic fundamentals. But I keep telling people who are fit and healthy, I've got a lot of mates, we all play football back home. I'm sure it's, as well, it's a big thing back in Europe. But I tell them, just try it. Whether it's jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, Thai boxing, try something. It changes your life. It just does a lot of things for your mind as well. And even with the Wimp Warrior program, I found like sometimes you find out a lot more about yourself.
Yeah.
Because as I said, I have trained. I've never really sparred up until the Wimp Warrior program. And there's a couple of times I had my bell rung a little bit in training. And it tells you whether, you find out who you are, whether, you're willing to dig in or you're willing to back out. And it was an amazing experience to find those things out. And the biggest thing of the whole lot is the fight at the end. And I remember you guys, I did ask the question, which you get all the time, is, do you have to fight at the end?
Yeah.
Because obviously that fear is there. And you guys said, obviously you encourage people to fight. But absolutely, it's the best thing of the whole program. That teaches you more than anything about yourself on the mental side of, like, I think I was 18 fights in. So I was like the 18th fight. I'd seen one of my mates get knocked out during the fight, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I was looking for I was like, I would not mind if there was a fire in the back or something and I had to leave. But that moment of walking out to the cage is something I'll never forget. It's just the way your mind works, the way the world disappears, and it's just you and the walk to the cage. I can't tell people enough about it. And if I never do it again, I'm still going to be in love with the sport. I'm going to be involved in some way. It's done a lot, and it's guys like you, and I've coaches back home I'm always trying to talk to about, they're trying to keep things going during the lockdowns and stuff like that. It's not easy, but it's a savior for times like this, especially, MMA and sports in general.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's look, the finale is a special, and like you say, I get a lot of people saying, I want to do the program, but I don't want to fight. And I always say to them, look, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you have to. But for me as a coach, you'll miss so much if you don't do it. But also what I try and say is, look, know that you don't have to at the end, so don't stress too much, but tell yourself you're going to. because you want to have that pressure and that anxiety, because that's going to make you incrementally stronger each day. If you don't have that pressure throughout, and then suddenly you decide you want to, you've missed all that opportunity to get mentally stronger up to that period. So I always say, tell yourself you're going to fight, and in a few weeks out we'll decide whether you want to. But just have that thought in your head, and because it helps you train anyway. Because there's no better incentive to get your ass out in the morning knowing you've got to.
That's exactly. Yeah, and even like that was the thing for me. I remember like 2 weeks out, I think. I'd been missing not a lot of sessions, but a little bit here or there, and you miss one session, you're thinking, well, the guy I'm fighting probably hasn't, and it just plays with your head. But one of the guys we were training with, big heavyweight guy, an absolute gent, and he'd be a friend of mine for life. But he had lost his mother throughout the program; she had passed away, and of course, he wasn't pulling out of the fight. So I was, pretty much thinking, how can I even think about not fighting? I'll go out and get my ass kicked, so what, we'll do it. But it is like I'm at the moment studying to be a PT, and one of the things I have found is there's a lot of people, including myself, and I've always gone through different training programs and stuff like that. Unless you have a solid set goal at the end, it's not like I want to train saying, I just want to get a bit fitter, but it's not enough, because you're gonna, unless you have a set goal like the fight at the end of Winter Warrior, you won't reach your full potential. When you have something where especially you got to step into a cage with a guy, or a girl, but it pushes you through those weeks that you don't want to get up out of bed, and I have many of those, to be fair.
It takes away the tomorrow. And when I say that, is when we don't have something we need to aim for, we can always say, tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow, and things get put off. But there's no tomorrow. It's only today. Today we have to train, and then same day tomorrow. There's no pushing it out. So there is no tomorrow. So you just turn up, get your legs out, swing your legs out of bed, and I say a lot as well, is that's often the hardest thing for people is swinging their legs out of bed at 4:30 in the morning. But even that is your train. It's discipline. It's that mental discipline of. It's easier. It's way easier to stay in bed. Way easier, especially if you've got your partner in there and it's cold outside. Everyone would choose to stay in bed, but we'd choose the hard route, not the easy route. And that's where all the rewards come from. It's not from the easy path where everyone goes. You've got to go off the beaten track, and that's where the true learnings in life come from, and the rewards. So it's it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. To be honest, that is my only, if I have any regret out of the Winter Warriors, the few sessions I did miss, I wish I could take them back. I wish I could get my ass up out of bed. And, sometimes it's, like I said, I had a little bit of an excuse with slight injuries, but I could have turned up. And that's the only thing I look back and I say, why didn't I just get up out of bed and go in? But,
I tell people all the time on the mats, because it's some people, they need a bit of a motivation. And I say, look, it's the single days here and there that you miss. They're the ones that are going to play on your mind, especially out the back when you're having your hands wrapped.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, I wish I missed that. I missed that session, or I could have done more.
Yeah.
You want to be out the back saying, I've done everything I could. Yeah. And then you're at peace with yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. And
that's what you want.
The thing I found too as well is, like I've talked a lot about this, and like the fear that goes through your mind on the day of the fight and stuff like that. But the truth is, you look back, it's a really fun experience too. Like, it's not all kind of sitting around shaking with nerves. Like, the whole day for me, looking back, it was the moments of trying to clear my head of fear. Like, it's a really cool kind of. It's not all dread and fear, It's a cool experience to put yourself through and put your mind through. And like I someday, hopefully, touch wood, will do it again, and I can't wait to do it again. It's like, not to say I won't be shitting my shorts, but like, I cannot wait to do it again. It's going to be a lot of fun. But honestly, the things you guys are doing is brilliant, and it's such a. I still have people, in my family and stuff like that, to kind of look at the sport like that's brutal and it's horrible, and I keep trying to tell them it's just like you. It's trying to say, just put your kids through it, let them feel it. Trust me, they'll learn from it. And I think it's a never-ending battle, especially you're going to have probably till the end of time. But I think what you're doing is opening people's eyes a little bit at a time, which is good.
I mean, it is tough, and it's even more so now. I'm involved with IMAF, which is the World Governing Body, and I'm on the World Coaching Commission, trying to work towards getting our sport into the Olympics. But the trouble is that people, the image, there is no image of the sport. There's only the image of the professional fighting. So if you say to anyone, have you heard of MMA? They say, oh, the UFC or One Champs or Bellator, and all they look is, oh, that's cage fighting.
Yeah.
And so and that's professional fighting, and that's, and that is what it is, and that's the pinnacle of our sport. But there's no underlining sport at the moment, and that's the work I'm doing with IMAF, trying to build that. And Wimp to Warrior is a massive help, but a lot of people that come through Wimp to Warrior, they absolutely love it and stuff. But then a lot of them go off and do striking or the ground game because they like a particular element of MMA. So I've been doing a lot of work with dividing the sport up now, so you can become a specialist MMA striker or ground. And that's something we're launching this year. I've got a competition format as well with this now. So in July, I'm doing the first ever event, and it's mat based, and you can do ground or stand up MMA. And I'm doing that in Sydney. And then the idea is that we'll roll that out through all the federations around the world. So it'll enable people to build up their skill base. You can do both. So like the morning would be stand up, and in the afternoon would be ground. But it's all MMA. So the stand up, you've got takedowns. The ground starts in a clinch, standing, and you've got to work your wrestling to get to the ground. So it's very fast impact, and but it's a way of breaking the sport up and allowing people to build up this part of the sport, and then eventually put it all together. And then if they want to, then step in the cage and then build up their sport. But it's we need to create the image of the sport, and I think this new mat-based competition format that I've put together in a year or 2 years' time. The idea, if this really takes off, is people, when you say to someone MMA, they might think this rather than UFC.
Yeah, I like.
And now you have a sport for the first time, sport MMA. So and that will get us into the Olympics. But until we get that sport recognition, it's always going to be tough, because the haters because there's only so many combat sports are allowed in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. So which means for MMA to get in, one has to come out.
Yeah.
So the other sports, the other combat sports, don't want MMA in, because you think about combat, there's no combat sport that comes close to the popularity of MMA.
Yeah.
So they know if MMA gets into Olympics, it's going to be the biggest combat sport. Everyone's going to watch that and not their sport, their combat sport. So they're really putting up roadblocks, and they keep throwing the whole, this is cage fighting, this is prize fighting. So, and it's always going to be the easy thing for people to throw at us. So, but by creating this new image and new platform, I think that will be a huge help, and it will take away a lot of those barriers.
Yeah, I love that idea. So is that going to be like another version of like Wimp to Warrior?
Well, I created a specialist program for Wimp to Warrior 18 months ago, and the idea is it's only a 10-week course, mm-hmm. but you can go and specialize in the ground or the stand up, and you just train for 10 weeks purely in that element. And I designed it because, for that reason, people finish Wimp to Warrior and they go, what now? They love the whole challenge, and they like things to test themselves. But they also, like I say, most of them like one element of MMA, because it takes so long to learn all of it.
Yeah.
So that's the program, and we are launching that later on this year. It got held off because of COVID.
Yeah.
But what will happen is, at the end of their 10-week programs, if we can get these tournaments happening on a regular basis, they can do this as a training camp to then go and do a tournament on the mats. So, it's the first time, because as a coach, your athletes are always going to do jiu-jitsu competitions or Muay Thai, because they want to get a lot of experience, and there's not enough amateur events around in the cage, and that they shouldn't have to do, when you're learning your craft, you want to be able to do it in stages. Yeah, this is the opportunity to really do that in a modular way. So I'm really excited about it. So yeah, July. This is the first person I've talked to. So this is.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, I love it. Breaking.
Yeah, so this is a bit of an exclusive for you, but yeah. So I'll be advertising, announcing it probably next week, and we're going to have a summit. So the Saturday will be like an industry summit all day at Olympic Park, and then on the Sunday we're going to have the big tournament.
Oh, brilliant! I love that idea. Yeah, because I think sometimes people can kind of get overwhelmed with the amount that's in MMA. You know, they
Yeah,
see it on TV, and it's, you know, you don't realize how deep every single aspect of it goes. But no, I love that idea because, like you said, it's unfortunately the cage is just that kind of thing that seems to stick
yeah.
with people. I don't know why, but
Mm.
it will happen. I believe guys like you, Richie, will eventually. You know, at the beginning of MMA, no one wanted to touch it. You know, you remember that
Mm.
yourself. You've heard the stories, and
Ah,
no one wanted to go near it. It was cockfighting, and it was this and that, and now it's mainstream. It'll get into the Olympics, but like I said, guys like you just we just need, you know, someone to just open some door somewhere and
yeah,
look at the sport for more than just cage fighting. You know.
yeah. We're banging on the doors. Don't worry, we'll get there. I'll
Yeah,
be.
I know. You guys like you is what we need. And I said I have coaches back home who are fighting tooth and nail to do the same, and they will. You'll
Yeah.
get there in time. Like you're doing some amazing things, and I can't speak highly enough of what you're doing with Wimp to Warrior and everything else outside of that. I'm not going to hold you up too much longer because I know you've got an important meeting. But
That's all right. I've got another 20 minutes or so, so I'm good.
oh, sweet, sweet. Well, I'll keep you for those 20 minutes then. No, it's brilliant. Like I said, the stuff you're doing is great, and in terms of like obviously you're kind of, I keep telling people like you're one of these people who's you're not the you're obviously not one of those main faces of MMA, but the same with some of my coaches back home. But the guys that are doing so much stuff behind closed doors and behind the pictures and the papers and stuff like that is it's unreal. And especially at a time like this, like my mate Ben Davis back home, he's teaching people in living rooms at the moment because of lockdown. And you know, obviously they're telling you're not allowed to train and stuff like that. But he said his students are messaging him all the time saying we're kind of struggling, you know,
Yeah.
just getting bored in the house. They're not working, they're not training. And he decided, listen, I've had enough. He said, I don't care if the cops want to arrest me. He said, we're going to do a different living room every week. And he's trying to squeeze like 20 students into a living room just, and he said it's just to do something to get
Mm.
their heads around, you know, going crazy, I suppose. And yeah, we need sports and MMA and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be able to do what they can do, you know.
It's tough. There's a, I know for a fact, even before COVID, there's gyms out there that if they weren't running the Winter Warrior program, that they wouldn't be able to stay open. You know,
Yeah.
it's, but even, and you know, and my old gym, the gym that I came to in London, my old coach, I mean, he's been since '91. He's had his own, and he's the last place. He's been there sort of 15 years in West London. And the second lockdown, you know, there's no government funding there. There's the landlord wouldn't give him any rent reduction, so it's closed. It's
Yeah.
shut. It's forever. He's not going back. So it's terrible. And you know, I deal with the gyms in the island, the SBG gyms through Winter Warrior, like
Yeah.
Liam in Cork and John Kavanagh as well. Liam's 40 weeks out of the last 52, their doors have been shut. No government funding, no relief from the landlords. I mean, I don't know how these gyms are meant to stay open or how they're going to reopen.
Yeah.
It's tough. It really is tough.
I really think the governments need to start kind of understanding how important these places are for people. Like I know
Yeah.
I'll speak until the cows come home, but like they really need to see it's not just like this is a place where people really do get to go and clear their heads, and whether they're good at the sport or not. I mean, I played football for years. I was never a great player, but it was one of my
Mm.
favorite things to do. You know, it just does so much for people, and they need to. I spoke to one of my brothers back home yesterday, who was a massive football fan, and he said he's just not doing anything. He said he's going
Yeah.
crazy, and it's, you know,
It's the community.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the
exactly.
community people miss. And that was always that was the thing that back in London when I had my gym, is that I always talk to the other coaches because I had the biggest classes out of all our federation, and I always just say to them is, you know, they would go, how do you get so many people? And I say, I build a community. You know, we'd go paintballing at the weekend,
Yeah.
or if someone's having a birthday, everyone that trains, we all go to their party and support. And then so sometimes, you know, I don't want to go training, but you miss that community as well.
Yeah.
And it's the gyms that have that community feel, and that's the key to keeping people, and martial art gyms do it better than anyone because
Yeah.
you know, there's no prejudice, it's almost like we're all the same. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where you're from, what your religion is. You know, you're training partners, and it's very unique. It's a very unique situation.
Yeah,
And,
and I think with MMA, what I found as well is, you know, compared to like football and stuff, is everyone has an interesting story.
yeah,
You want to hear like for me, I'm more of a striking fan, and you know, people want to hear what my take on maybe the sport, and then I have other guys who prefer the ground and to hear their take, and everybody can bounce off each other. Like we still have our Wimp to Warrior group. Like we'll still meet. Like yesterday, a lot of them met up for beers and stuff, and we still have that same crew. Like, and that's 2 years ago. Wimp to Warrior finished. You know, some of us haven't trained since, myself included. I have not been back on the mat since, but I still see the guys all the time, and I will see them for as long as I'm here, for as long as I live, to be honest, because they're a great bunch of guys. But it's a community thing, and I just hope that they start to do something in terms of letting people go back and train some way, whether it's in the park in the middle of the rain. Just allow them to do something. It's not good to leave people cooped up all the time, and you're going to have a lot more struggles with mental health and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, to be honest, I think that's the only positive really to take away. I mean, there are a couple of positives, whereas a lot of people have had the opportunity to spend a lot more time with their families, you know, me included, and my kids, and because I always used to be traveling, going all around the world to the other Wimp to Warrior gyms. So that's been great for me. But I think this whole COVID thing, it's really put a spotlight on mental health, and the gyms that we deal with around the world that have come out of and have reopened after lockdowns, the martial arts academies are busier than ever, because I think, and the Wimp to Warrior programs as well, we've had some insane numbers in Wimp to Warrior, like Eugene's at City Kickboxing, he had like 100 people start, 100 people. Like John Kavanagh's was like 60 something, but people are really starting to put themselves first and investing in their own mental health. And you know, people say, oh shit, you know, Wimp to Warrior, that sounds expensive, but you know, people will go and blow the amount of money in a weekend that it costs to do a whole week or 2 weeks training on getting pissed. And I'm like, this is something that's going to fundamentally help you in your life.
Yeah,
you know, it's an investment in you, and I think a lot of people are starting to come around to that. And I think martial arts academies will do a lot of good and help a lot of people coming out of this COVID thing. So
it is. It's going to, and I think, like you said, people will realize how much they miss things, or how much they realize that these opportunities they didn't take previously, whether it's a Wimp to Warrior, whether it's whatever, signing up for some sort of a gym or whatever the hell it may be that you're interested in, that it can be taken away from you, you know. So the opportunity is there. You kind of need to take it, because like sometimes life is not really in our hands, you know, and it's you got to take these opportunities. Like I said, we were quite lucky in terms of timing with the first Wimp to Warrior here, and in terms of it being New Zealand, because, you know, we haven't been locked down too much, thankfully, and same with you guys over there. But just people got to take the opportunity to invest in themselves, you know. Like I've started up with the encouragement of my missus and with Wimp to Warrior, because I haven't been able to train the last while. I wanted to be involved in the sport some way, because I can't. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep talking to myself in the house. So that's why I set up this podcast and things like that. So just there's plenty of ways around, whether you're into, like I said, football, whether you're just into lifting weights, there's plenty of ways of investing in yourself, even if you can't get near a gym, you know?
Yeah. You should look at doing I know because you're back, and look, we can talk about it off there as well, because I've been plagued with back injuries. I've had back surgery as well. You know, I might be able to give you some advice on it, but there's the IMAF coaching accreditation courses. There's all different levels, and the first level is just for like an assistant coach level. You don't have to be, you know, you can come through and get the understanding you get of the sport kind of post Wimp to Warrior. It's not a lot of difference, you know, in terms of experience. It's more about teaching people how to communicate and pass on knowledge. That's what the course is about. But, you know, you could, you know, if MMA is the thing, you know, the PT is great as well, because that would help you monetize. But, you know, maybe look at doing like an assistant coaching course, you know, and helping out. You know,
to be honest, I did not know you guys. I did not know you guys did that. I thought it was more of a higher level. Absolutely, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Because, to be honest, the PT thing is exactly what you said. It's just to have that borderline. But I do intend to go through some sort of coaching in MMA or something. I want to expand myself as much as I can. If I can never train, I will be involved in the sport somehow, you know.
Yeah, but you can, like I say, with this, you can do the specialist coaching course as well now. So you can be a like assistant stand-up coach or assistant ground coach, and then build up. And then a couple of years later, you can then go for your next level. And then that looks at amateur competition level coaching, and then it's professional coaching. So yeah,
I just go through
I'll send you some details.
Absolutely, yeah, I would love that. I would love that because I have, like I said, I've been looking into it. It's just I've so much on my plate at the moment. We're trying. My girlfriend is wrecking my head about finishing this PT course, and I've quite a few interviews coming up and things like that. But absolutely, that's the route I wanted to go down. So any
Yeah.
details you can give me, man, I'd love
Yeah.
to look at something like that because if I can never grapple or anything again, I will be involved in the sport somehow.
Yeah, no problem. I'll send you some stuff over.
Oh, that's brilliant. I appreciate that. On that note, Richie, I'm going to let you get to your meetings because I'm sure you have a lot of stuff on your plate as always. I can't thank you enough for coming on, and I will definitely bug you in the future to come on again and see what you're doing,
Sure.
man. I appreciate everything, and listen, all the things you're doing, man. I'm following you all the time. Please keep it up because we need guys like you through times like this.
Thanks, Wes. Look, we'll chat again maybe before the tournament or after the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll message you sometime again, and we'll see where you're going from there. And hopefully, the world has opened up a little bit, and this cage fighting world starts to disappear a little bit.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Richie, and definitely any details you have on those courses, please send them over. I'll definitely look into them.
Yeah. All right, champ.
Thank you very much, brother.
Good luck
Take
with
care.
course.
Sorry?
Good luck with course.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you. Good luck with everything you're working on. You've so much, I can't name them all. Cheers, brother. Thank you.
Champ. See you, mate.
Here.